Since 1947, the United States Marine Corps has been helping Santa fill his sleigh, making happier holidays for deserving children right in your community. Go to toysfortots.org and learn how you can make a difference.
This is AM 1220, KTLV, Midwest City, Oklahoma City, and streaming audio at KTLV1220.com.
This is Oklahoma Voice with Jonathan Clour on KTLV 1220.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. Tonight, we will receive our Thunder basketball update from our sport contributors, Justin Wright and Trey Shelton. They will be filling us in on the latest Thunder news and plays, as well as last week's OSU Bedlam game. Also, we will have Oklahoma City State Representative candidate Joe Griffin on the program. He will be discussing his campaign as well as weighing in on the issues. Before we get to our sports update, I want to make a quick announcement for Thursday evening's program. On Oklahoma Voice, we will host the newly elected state GOP chairman, Pam Pollard. She was supposed to join us yesterday, but due to time constraints, we had to reschedule her appearance. And I also want to remind you that Friday, December 4th at 7 p.m., we will have music industry mogul Ruben Roman on the show. He is better known by his stage name, El Demonio. He was a former rapper and one of the first Latin rappers in the American music industry to hit the big time. He was performing and producing music, and he shared albums with some of the most prominent names in the music industry, such as R. Kelly, Snoop Dogg, Baby Bash, T-Pain, Akon, and T.I. By a leap of faith, he left the limelight at the peak of his music career to start his own record label. He founded it to help promote and to give name to rising Native American musicians. He will give his testimony of today's music industry, his journey to stardom, and how he is choosing to use his gift to give back to indigenous peoples. You do not want to miss this exclusive interview. Next, we will have our Thunder basketball sport contributors, Justin Wright and Trey Shelton. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having us on, Jonathan.
Hey, you're very welcome. Hey, I want to remind our listeners of your website, and that is thunderoped.com. Thunder Op-Ed is all one word. That's Thunder, OPED.com. This is a page where you can receive your Thunder news and commentary written by these guys. Well, before we get to the Thunder rundown, I would definitely feel amiss if we did not discuss the OSU Bedlam game last week. We noted a strong victory for Oklahoma University on Oklahoma State's home turf with a resounding 35-point margin, 58-23. Trey, did this wide point margin surprise you?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. Coming into the game, you had two highly ranked teams, rivalry game, amped up playing for the conference championship. I thought it was going to be a slugfest all night, but OU kind of jumped on Oklahoma State early and just never looked back.
Well, how about you, Justin?
It definitely had the makings of one of the classic Bedlam games, something that was going to go back and forth, something that we've seen the last few years. But this Oklahoma defense really stepped up and made things hard for an Oklahoma State offense that, while they were missing Mason Rudolph, just didn't seem to have the same flow and same passion to it, and OU just took that and ran with it.
I think this is definitely going to be a game that is going down in history, and folks are going to recall it for quite a while. What gave OU their edge?
I think for me it was the rushing game. OU had two players in Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine who went over 130 yards, and each of them had two touchdowns. So I think they really ground and pound and dominated the game up front.
Okay.
I think it had to be the defense. It was a huge question last year. Can this defense really play? Is Mike Stoops really the answer? And all season, they've really played with a chip on their shoulder, and especially since the Texas loss on October 10th. this has been a completely different team, and I think that defense really stepped up and took care of an Oklahoma State offense that could be potent.
I see. Justin, you mentioned Bob Stoops' brother, and you said his name is Mike. Is that right?
Mike Stoops.
Okay. What do you think about him? How long has he been on the OU team as a coach?
Well, he was originally on the staff when they won the national championship in 2000. He came back after a stint coaching, head coaching at Arizona a few seasons ago. He's a great mind. I think he needed a change of scenery. He moved up into the press box, something that not a whole lot of defensive coordinators do. I think the ability for him to see the field and coaching outside linebackers rather than defensive backs has really given him a new perspective, and you really see it in the intensity of this defense, especially when blitzes off the edge with guys like Eric Stryker, who's a premier outside linebacker in the NCAA right now.
Agreed. Well, what element was OSU lacking during their Bedlam game, if any?
I think it had to be their inability to move the ball. They succeeded in throwing the ball early on and throughout the game, but they had a bunch of big plays. They weren't consistently able to move the ball down the field. Like Justin said, the defense really stepped up huge this weekend.
Okay. And after the game, I was looking on social media, and I saw there were a lot of folks that were complaining about the OSU coaching staff. Were they partially to blame?
Well, I think part of it might be a little bit misguided. I think a lot of people thought that Mason Rudolph should have played. After some of the reports that I've seen, I don't have any sources, but a lot of things have really flown around that Mason Rudolph might have broken his foot. He probably wasn't good to go in the first place. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there with they wanted Rudolph to play, but then when the ones that knew he was hurt didn't want him to go out there. And I think that pick six that Rudolph threw really, really crushed that Oklahoma State offense and really crushed the team's spirit.
Mm. Well, guys, any more final comments before we move on to the Thunder?
No, not for me.
No? Okay. Well, yesterday the Thunder lost its 4-game winning streak to the Hawks. I believe it was 100 to 106. Trey, what was your analysis on that?
Well, we just got out-rebounded this game, and we got outworked on the interior part of the court. They scored 48 points in the paint this game, so that's nearly half of their points came from very close to the rim. And they had 51 total rebounds on the game, and they were averaging just 41 coming into this game. So we definitely missed some opportunities to keep them off the glass.
Okay.
I think there was a real lack of intensity from the Thunder team. Really didn't get going up on the outset. Just didn't seem to have it in them. They made some great comebacks, closing the first half on an 18-3 run. That was huge. But defense comes down to effort a lot of times, and you just didn't see it consistently. And that's something that it's starting to become a real worry for this team. Can they consistently play good, solid, high-energy defense?
And the biggest thing about that, I think, is that this team has gotten so used to putting up high scoring games that sometimes I think that maybe they think that they can slack a little bit on the defensive end because they'll outscore their opponent. But like last night's game, the bench was just atrocious for the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. And so when you have games like that where you're not getting any bench scoring or any contribution, it's going to make things tough if you're not playing defense.
Well, and that's been a consistent issue is you can't expect 3 or 4 guys to really go out there and make it a night and just hope that Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, and then a Dion or an Enes Kanter here and there can win you a ball game, especially against a very talented Atlanta Hawks team. They put together a really good team. They don't have any real big names. Al Horford's a great player. Jeff Teague's a great player. Paul Millsap is great. They don't have that star power that the Thunder do. You have to have guys come out and really play as a unit if you're going to beat a really solid team like Atlanta. You you can't hope to just outscore them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, if you look at the stat line from last night, it's hard to make an argument that Paul Millsap, Al Horford, and Jeff Teague aren't stars in this league, or at least don't have the capability to be. I mean, they all put up over 20 points, and Millsap and Horford both had double-doubles against us. So they've definitely got that ability, but they may not have that same name recognition that the Oklahoma City Thunder carry.
And that's what this team is. Like I said, it's just a solid team. They play really well together. They've got that same Spurs mentality, and they move the ball really well. And it really tore up this defense. And you're starting to look at this team, and is right now through 18 games, the expectations we have as a fan base, the expectations that we were coming in, it was championship. Is 11-7 good enough for this team right now?
I think, considering where we are, we definitely have the opportunity to start really losing some ground with this kind of this 11-7 start. But luckily, the rest of the league has kind of gotten off to a slow start as well, outside of course, the Golden State Warriors, who are undefeated so far. So that's helped us stay in the hunt for home court advantage, at least in the playoffs. And so I think, considering all of the new changes and the rotation, the head coach, I think I'm okay with 11-7 right now. Should we be better? Sure. There are some games that we should have won, but overall, I'm happy with our 11-7.
Okay. This Thursday, December 3rd, the Thunder will face the Heat. How's the Heat been faring?
The Heat are currently 10-6. They're a very solid defensive team. They're not going to light you up with a whole bunch of points. Dwayne Wade, kind of a shell of himself right now. Hassan Whiteside's been absolutely huge for them. He's a great rim protector, great rebounder. Definitely going to be a challenge for our front line. They're one of those teams where they're going to make the game really rough. They're going to try and slow everything down, play to their pace, and just play really solid, strong defense. It's going to be one of those classic ones where if the Thunder can really get out in transition, really force the tempo and play their own game, I think they're going to be good. But it comes down to, can they play defense on a consistent level? Something like we saw last week with the Jazz, where they came out and played fantastic defense. Can you get that from them every night? And if we see that on Thursday, I think they walk away with a win. This Miami team I'm not that sold on them right now.
Well, do you guys have any predictions for the game?
I think we take the game against Miami, but if we play interior defense like we did last night, then Chris Bosh will have a huge game against us.
All right.
I think it's going to be a little bit slow. I don't think we quite break that triple digit. I think we end up with somewhere around 97, 94 in a pretty close spot ball game.
Well, do you guys have any more final thoughts on the Thunder?
Just one fun stat from last night. Last night was our 14th game with 100 points at least, which is second most in the NBA, only behind Golden State.
Wow, that's impressive.
So, yeah.
Very, very impressive. All right, well, folks, we've been talking to Justin Wright and Trey Shelton from thunderoped.com. That's thunderoped.com. They have a blog there at their website, and they do daily updates. They've got some fantastic writers there, and these guys are almost always on the mark with their analysis. And Justin, Trey, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
You guys take it easy.
You too.
Well, I want to remind our folks, our listeners at home, how you can tune into our program. And you can listen to us live using the TuneIn Radio app. If you don't have it already downloaded to your phone, I want to remind you that it is 100% free. Simply go to your App Store selection on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart device and enter TuneIn Radio into the selection bar. Then click Download. After you have it installed on your device, open the app, find the search bar at the top of your screen, and enter KTLV. You'll find it at the top of your list. Select KTLV and then push play. It's that easy. Or we have another option to gain access to Oklahoma Voice, and that is by live streaming at ktlv.com. We've also created a channel on YouTube where you can rewatch any shows that you might have missed, and that is at Oklahoma Voice with Jonathan Clour. These are all recorded by webcam and downloaded the evening of the show. If you really want to see what's going on in the studios during the broadcast, then we suggest you visit our YouTube channel. Our next guest is an Oklahoma City State Representative candidate. His name is Joe Griffin. Joe, welcome to Oklahoma Voice.
Jonathan Clour, how's it going, sir?
Hey, it is fantastic. Hey, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was fantastic. You know, we had a good Thanksgiving with the family. I got all my Christmas decorations up right before the monsoon hit.
All right.
Good. I got about 80% of that done. So there's still another 20% of lights to be put up. You know, I'm not going to say it's going to be like a Griswold type house. You know, it's not going to be like a second.
There you go.
But the house is going to be pretty bright down there on Southwest 65th and Walker. So.
All right, man. Those are the labors of the holiday season. Cutting down tree limbs, braving the ice, and trying to make sure your Christmas decorations aren't damaged.
Yeah, someone took a pelting. You know, we had, I'm sure, you know, just like everybody else in Oklahoma City, we had a lot of tree damage.
Oh, yeah.
You know, half the top of my tree fell off. Luckily, it missed the back porch by just a couple of inches.
Uh-huh.
So we really lucked out. But, you know, I've been knocking doors the past couple days and seeing a lot of the damage, especially down on the south side. And I can definitely say that we were lucky because there's people who have whole trees that just, you know, crushed parts of their house because of the frost. It was real bad. But,
yeah, this might be our bad ice storm of the year. Hopefully it won't show itself anymore. Hopefully this is the only one. That's right. Well, and Joe, I know you're a very busy man, and I know that you're hitting the pavement tonight.
Yeah. You know, when you went over to me, I was just walking down the street and getting into my car. I just intended to talk on criminal justice reform, a big issue here in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's whether you read it in the papers or you see it in the news, there's no doubt that our prisons are overcrowded. They're overcrowded with a lot of nonviolent offenders, and we are severely understaffed. I think we're somewhere around 115 to 120% past capacity on our prisons. And so we attended a talk tonight, heard from some folks that, you know, there was a nice question and answer deal going on, and a lot of interesting things, especially when it comes to the fact that, you know, we are locking up nonviolent offenders. Some of them are on very minor drug charges, and they're going to prison for several years, anywhere from 1 year to 5 years on a very small infraction. And then in comparison, you know, we're locking up people for we're not locking up people for much more severe crimes. Like, you know, you have somebody who gets caught with, you know, let's just say a small trace of a substance, who has an addiction problem. Okay. And then they go away for 5 years. And then you have somebody who gets caught with child pornography, and they get a slap on the wrist, probation, and, you know, they never see the inside of a cell. And I think it's quite obvious to everyone, especially the public, of which one is the worst crime. And when we have that kind of, you know, when we have that kind of playing field going on, it's easy to tell what the problem is. And we need to readjust our focus on putting the people who are truly victimizing people and are a danger to society behind bars, and making sure that people who can be rehabilitated and can be productive members of society have that ability.
And you are on location at the convention right now. Were there any other hot topics that were discussed tonight, or any other statistics that were told that we might find interesting?
Well, that's the predominant one. That was the predominant. That is the predominant topic of the talk that we attended tonight down here in G-Juice. And the reason for that is because, number one, we have one of the highest incarceration rates here in the United States. Right here in Oklahoma, it's a huge problem. The legislature has played around with criminal justice reforms under Speaker Steele just a few years ago. The process got started. You know, my former boss, Speaker Jeff Hickman, continued that this past legislative session. So we're starting to turn the ship around. We're starting to see that things aren't working. And, you know, there's a lot of ways that we can attack this problem. And, you know, whether it's, you know, talking about adjusting sentencing, how we do that here in Oklahoma, whether we're talking about our education system and improving that, there's multiple ways we can attack the criminal justice reform issue. And, you know, it's pretty broad. It's pretty broad. It's pretty fascinating, but it's something that needs to be done. If we're going to move forward, you know, as a state, and we're going to have a population that's ready for success, we have to start addressing these issues. So.
And Joe, I heard you mention your former boss, the Speaker of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, Speaker Hickman. Why don't you tell us about your career in media and communications and how you tie into the Oklahoma legislature?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, it actually goes back to almost 10 years ago. You know, I grew up in Baltimore City. I come from a working class family in South Baltimore. And, you know, I was the first generation to go to college, and I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to be a journalist. So I went ahead and I went to college and, you know, helped put myself through, and I became a TV reporter. I traveled the country. You know, I spent a lot of time in West Texas, spent a lot of time out in New Mexico, a little bit of time up in Ohio, and, you know, a large chunk of time down here in Oklahoma. And, you know, I specialized in local and state politics, as well as investigative reports and crime. And so I've always been interested in government and in policy and where government fails a lot of times, and, you know, where government succeeds. And after being a TV reporter for roughly about 8 years, I actually ran into Speaker T.W. Shannon election night in 2012, and he said, "Hey, I'm building a team. Would you like to come over and work on my staff?" I said, "You know, I'd love to do that." So I came on board with Speaker T.W. Shannon here in Oklahoma, and after he decided to pursue the Senate, Speaker Jeff Hickman was elected the Speaker of the House, and he was kind enough to look at me and say, "Hey, you know, you did a great job. I want you on my team." And I said I'd be honored. And so I served under two Speakers of the House for the past 3 years. And I've seen a lot of great things here in the Oklahoma legislature. I've also seen some things where, you know, we can make improvements. We can make improvements. You know, but yeah, I mean, it's been an honor to serve under both of them.
Wow. Well, you know, I'm going to go off track a little bit. Do you have any wild stories about your reporting days?
No. Where to begin?
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Anybody who decides to go into TV news, every day is a new experience.
I'd agree with that.
Every day is a new experience.
Well,
so I can't emphasize that enough.
It looks like your career in media and communications have really prepared you for this moment in time. I'm going to ask you a little bit, shifting gears, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the district that you're running for. Which district have you declared your candidacy in?
I'm running in House District 92,
Okay.
and that is right here in Oklahoma City.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at the boundaries of House District 92, it's a pretty complex district. You have part of the Flats, you have the State Fairgrounds, you have Classing 1010, you have part of Midtown, then you have downtown, and then you have from about Walker over to 235, straight down to 240, and then you have a chunk of Valley Brook. So it's like a giant Z, and you know, just hearing those neighborhoods and putting them all together, you can see that it's a pretty complex district. No particular area is the same as the other. So some of the issues are the same, but how those issues need to be approached are very different. So it's very complex. You have downtown that is blossoming, and then you have neighborhoods that aren't seeing the renaissance. And you have people that are hungry to see that. They want to see nice things in their neighborhood.
Right. I want to remind folks that we're talking with Joe Griffin. He is a candidate for the Oklahoma House of Representatives, I believe District 92, and we're talking about the layout of his district and the makeup of the district. And Joe, I do have to agree with you on that. It is a diverse district, and it's got twists and turns, and it has its own character. I do have to say. And I was going to ask you, is that a predominantly Democrat district?
It is. It is. It's a predominantly Democrat district. It's a very blue collar district outside of downtown. You have hardworking people that their main priorities are their family, their faith, and putting food on the table and making ends meet. And that is probably the best illustration of my district that I can give you is that they are hardworking people who care about where they live. They take a lot of pride in where they live, and they want to see good things happen. They want to see good things happen, and they want to see things getting done.
Right. Joe, you are a Republican. And
Yeah.
some folks in this district may have a hard time voting for a Republican, or perhaps they've never voted for a Republican before, or they say the Republican Party does not align with my values. What words of assurance can you give the voters of your district that you are the man for the job?
Well, Jonathan, I tell you, the main thing is that people in my district, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's almost like a mantra. They want to see things getting done. They want to see opportunity. Okay, and under their current representation, and I'm not saying anything bad, but under their current representation, that voice has not been heard up the legislature. It's a Republican-dominated legislature. Okay, and I think that even though it's a Democratic district, I think people care more about your values and who you are when they go to the voting box. And considering my background, once again, I come from a working class family. I know what it's like for people to fight check to check, to fight to make ends meet, and to save your money, to buy your home, and push to make sure that your kid does better than you. Okay, my parents, worked extra hours, 2 jobs to raise me, and so as far as background experience, that's what I have in common with them. And the overall feeling in my district is that people want to be safe. Okay, people want to be safe. Crime is a huge issue. And, a big reason for that is that there's not enough jobs coming in for working people. Oklahoma is doing a fantastic job, getting jobs with oil and gas. It's doing a fantastic job attracting, office jobs, but we don't have enough manufacturing. We don't have enough jobs for laborers. And I think with the success that we've had here in Oklahoma, I think what really resonates in my district is that we just need to turn the attention a little bit into the job creation so that hardworking people, like people in House District 92, can be part of this renaissance. That they can get that job that pays well and has benefit, and they can provide for their children. They can choose what school they want to send their kid to. They can work, and they know that hey, my kid's got a shot at going to college. These are things that are important to the people in my district. And I think that when you have those common values, that overrides party lines. Okay, people look at, does this person share my values more so than is this person a Republican or a Democrat? And I got to say, growing up where I grew up, and with the hard work ethic that my family instilled in me, I share the same values as the people in my district. And I think that's what crosses the barrier.
All right. Are there any committees that you would like to sit on if you get elected to the legislature?
Oh, wow.
That's a pretty broad question.
A big one for me would be public safety.
Okay.
It would definitely be public safety. Again, going back to the fact that public safety is a huge issue in my district. The one thing that I really want to see that's a priority is that I want to make sure that law enforcement are communicating with one another. There is no doubt that there is a very big problem with the cartels, the gangs, the methamphetamine trade, prostitution. It's a very big problem on the south side, especially in my district. And I reported on this when I was a TV reporter. I heard this when I worked on the speaker staff. We do not have state law enforcement communicating with local law enforcement and vice versa. The intelligence is not being shared. And when we're the crossroads of America, I-35 and I-40, that information should be shared between our law enforcement. And, it's just not happening. So I think we need to have better procedures. I think we need to have better policies that they'll share that, and we can start, taking bites out of the criminal element that's affecting our neighborhoods. I knock doors and I talk to people who go to the schools. I mean, my kid has gone to the schools here, and you hear these horror stories that 4th and 5th graders are being recruited by gangs. There's a problem there. There's a huge problem. And then, the gangs, they answer to the larger level drug dealers. The larger level drug dealers answer to the cartels. So, there's a whole pyramid here that's going on with crime that needs to be addressed. And with sharing that intelligence, we can start chomping at that. We can start, making a dent in that problem. And also, this is crazy, but when I was a TV reporter, I remember there was a case when they had a drug bust here in Oklahoma City, and they busted, I believe it was a car wash. I might be mixing cases up. I reported on so much of stuff, but I believe they did a major meth bust at a car wash. Well, there was another huge meth ring that they busted out in the rural parts. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another bust of an illegal racetrack down in southern Oklahoma. Well, come to find out, 6 months later, they were all working together. It was all part of the same crime ring. It was all part of the same system, but none of these law enforcement agencies were coordinating with one another. Just imagine an operation that's 3 different busts over 4 to 5 months that took place, okay? So it took them almost half a year to take care of that problem. Imagine if they were sharing intelligence, how fast that could have happened. It could have happened within weeks. You could have shut that down.
Right.
It's little things like that, like common sense approach.
That
I think will turn things around.
And I thought I had seen on the news not too long ago that the Oklahoma City Police Department might be updating their communications to where all of the different crimes that are in the Oklahoma City area are found on a website so that police officers from other cities can access this information to try to connect the dots if possible. Which I don't know if you've heard about that or not.
That would be monumental.
Yes.
That would be monumental.
And so it looks like that might be a step in the right direction. Like I said, I believe it's Oklahoma City Police Department, but they're trying to get their communications, together so that they can inform each other to crack down on exactly what you're saying. And a lot of times this stuff is happening right under our noses. And, it's a shame that, we might have the supplies, the resources, the manpower to go after these people, but due to not being organized, we can't.
And, these officers, they're putting their lives on the line for us.
They are. Yes.
They really are. My mother's family, they are all police officers and firefighters. So I know how that is. My grandfather was lieutenant of the Southeastern District in Baltimore. My great uncle, he was a sergeant. I know what they go through. I know what their families go through. And if we can share this intelligence between our different departments about organized crime and gangs, we're putting the officers that are on the front lines in a better position to know what they're getting into, how to prevent crime, how to stop crime. and we're also making sure that neighborhoods, like the ones that are in my district, that the crime is being rooted out and being pushed out of those neighborhoods, and that can only help things. That can only help things.
Well, Joe, you've really touched on some issues that we cannot ignore, and many people would call you wise beyond your years. I know you are a young candidate. May I ask your age?
35.
35.
35. I'll be 36 here in 2 weeks.
Well, happy early birthday to you, sir.
Thanks.
What will you bring to the legislature as a 36-year-old representative? What qualities do you possess as a young candidate, and what can you bring to the floor?
Well, the main thing that I can bring to the floor is I can hit the ground running. After covering the legislature for years, I covered the Texas legislature, the New Mexico legislature, the Ohio legislature, and the Oklahoma legislature prior to working for the Speaker of the House. I served under the Speaker for 3 years, so I know the Oklahoma system very well. As far as how do you file a bill? How do you carry your bill? Getting co-signers. What policies can you get support for? What policies can you not get support for? I'm not going in there blind. And the other thing is I know what has worked in other states and what has failed in other states. And from my experience as a TV reporter. So if anything, the thing that I believe that I can bring to the table is that I know what I'm getting into.
That's
I guess is the main thing. The other thing is I own my home. My kid goes to the schools here. I'm invested. I'm invested in my neighborhood. It's a lot of candidates can't say that. And when you have somebody who's invested in the neighborhood, they care about the direction that their district is going. They care about what gets placed in their district. They care about whether or not the people in their district can find jobs. They care about what kind of school is going to be available to the children in that district. One of my big pushes for education. Actually, I have two.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is that I want another career tech facility built down here on the south side. I think that would be tremendous for students. And let's be honest, a college education is a fantastic thing, but it's not for everybody. A career tech, a trade skill, is sometimes a better route for other people. And honestly, a lot of times it's more profitable. There's days where I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't have been a TV reporter. Maybe I should have been an electrician or something. But,
very true. Yeah.
But, I want a career tech. I want another career tech location built in the south side because I feel that the community can benefit from that. But, another thing that I want specifically for my district is I want to make sure that we have teachers that are well paid. And let's be honest, a Republican representative can push that and can push that type of policy through. They can go forward and they can draft a bill and they can get support to get teachers a pay raise. Okay? And I want teachers adequately paid. I want them to have good benefits so that we can retain them. But specifically, we had a great bill last year that would have gotten teachers certified to teach at schools where a majority of the students, and we have lots of schools where it's anywhere from 40 to 55% in my district, where English is not their primary language.
Right.
English is their second language, if they know English at all. Well, this bill would have gotten teachers certified to teach the large student populations where English is not their first language. And it would have directly benefited my district, but it got killed. It got killed. And it wouldn't have cost us a whole lot of money. So that's another, that really is one of the first things I want to push if elected. I want to make sure that we get those teachers and I want them certified because our children deserve every tool, that they can be given so that they can be successful. And if, here in the United States, You have to know the English language in order to succeed. You need to be able to address your potential employer with confidence, and that's what I want for our children. I want them to be confident whether they're going to a job interview here in Oklahoma, whether they leave here and they go to New York City, or whether they go out to Los Angeles and have a job interview out there. I want them to feel confident that they can communicate with their possible employer, and it can only benefit them. It can only benefit them, and I think it's a simple thing. It's a very affordable thing that we can do, and it'll directly impact House District 92. It'll help the children, and it'll help our neighborhood.
I want to remind folks that we're chatting with Joe Griffin. He is an Oklahoma House of Representatives candidate for State House District 92. Joe, with the minute that we have left, how can we learn more about you through a website or social media, and how can we contribute to your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go on joeforoklahoma.com. My platform is on there. My bio's on there. Feel free to type in Joe Griffin reporter. You'll see some of my old reporter tapes and stuff. Those are always fun to watch. You can find out a lot about me and about my platform and my experience that way. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, Joe Griffin for HD92. And you can follow me on Twitter at JGriffinOKC.
Awesome. Well, Joe, we are out of time, and I want to thank you so much for your participation in today's program, and we look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you so much. Anytime. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right. You take care. I want to thank our sport contributors Trey, Shelton, and Justin Wright for coming onto the program as well. And I want to remind you to follow their Thunder blog. It is updated daily and can be found at thunderoped.com. That's thunderoped.com. Folks, it is that time again. Thanks for listening. Good night and thunder up.
This has been Oklahoma Voice with Jonathan Clour. Tune in Monday through Friday night at 7 p.m. on the TuneIn Radio app, by live streaming at ktlv.com, or by radio on station 1220 AM. Hi, this is